Hey, what's up, guys? Little man with the big opinion here. We've got a drive ahead of us, so I thought we could get this discussion underway. If you hear random 2-year-old noises in the back, that's because I got Michael with me. And before we get into it, if you find this information useful, subscribe to the channel. It'd be really cool to hit the 1,000 subscriber mark by the end of the year, and hit the little bell. It lets you know when a video goes live. Share it with a friend or family member because that helps out. Like it if you enjoy this content. Dislike it if you do not like this content. Leave your questions down below. Start the conversations. I do a pretty good job of answering as many of them as I can. So, without being, overtly political, because there's a bit more that goes into this, I listened to Pete Hegseth's, some people are calling it a TED Talk. It was a speech with a bunch of top generals and admirals and, people of importance in the military. I agreed with about 75% of what he said. I don't think the whole beard thing is a hill to be dying on. But I also say, if you're not going to be in the military for your entire life, it's a small sacrifice that you can make while you're in the military. But the part that stood out to me the most was, talking about the fitness standards. I think a lot of people on the lower enlisted side can really appreciate, the whole idea of fitness standards. I went through, the ROTC stuff. I remember our lieutenant colonel and our captain drilling into us that, it's really one of the only things that you can bring with you when you go to your first unit is having a 300 on the PT test. It on a small level, it shows that you mean business. My brother is still in, and he's a sergeant, and it's one of the things that his leaders constantly talk to them about is, you're a leader, and you need to set the standard. So I think the physical fitness part of things is important. And it translated to a conversation that we were having at my work today. One of the teachers was complaining about the walk to our pre-K school to pick up her kids. We're on the same block. I would take a educated guess that she maybe had to walk 400 or 500 yards to go pick up her kid, and then had to walk 400 or 500 yards back. Yes, there's a little bit of a hill, so it's easier going down than coming back up, and talked about how that was one of the hardest parts of her day. In the nicest way possible, that's what a lot of Americans are dealing with. I saw a short that someone else did. I think anyone that has firearms or prepping or anything like that, one of my best videos is showing all the ammo that I have. And at least 20 of the top comments were, it doesn't matter how much guns and ammo you have, if you can't, run a mile, then you're a loot drop box, or, thanks for gathering preps for me kind of thing. That's the general mindset. I think a decent amount of, the people doing Minuteman style videos and I think most of us have talked about. I've done several videos talking about, physical fitness is. I mean, it's not just for us preppers. I think the U.S. adult population is 40% overweight or obese. I don't know the exact numbers, but I can point out plenty of friends, family, co-workers. I can walk into a Walmart and that statement holds water. And the conversation, it did spread more. And there's only 2 people at my work that I think if push come to shove, they could do several miles. They could do the physical things that needed to happen to save themselves or those around them. One of them, it's our school resource officer. He runs 3 miles every morning before he comes to work. He's doing the things. And the other guy was also a military dude, and I think he's a pretty jacked guy. So there's 3 of us that actively work out at my work. You could probably look around your work and see all the different people that are just, we're getting soft. I think that's also why, there's that push for the presidential, fitness program. I think that's why the NFL says, the Play for 30 program, and, sports are as important as they are in school, and the fact that they make you, I think it's, kind of on the low side of making you take 1 PE credit to graduate high school in Texas. And then it translates to, the real world. Unless your job, is somewhat physically demanding, there are way too many people that have gotten, fat and lazy. I know for some people it is harder than others. Most of the time, I'll do some push-ups during my conference at work, and then I have to wait for, turd butt back there to go to sleep before I can fully lock in and get a workout in. So yes, kids make it difficult. Your job is demanding. What are we upset about? I don't know why he's upset. But, I think he also helps out because he is constantly wanting us to not be inside the house. I don't want to say the O word because we still have about 15 minutes on this drive. And he gets super excited. But we are not in the house a pretty good part of the day. I still have time to play my video games. I enjoy video games. I watched the new Naked Gun last night. It was, that same, goofy comedy like the old ones. I enjoyed it. We still do family vacations and go out to eat and do all this other stuff. But at least 4 days out of the week, I'm getting a 45-minute workout in. I'm sacrificing sleep to do it, which probably isn't the best thing. Hopefully when he's a bit older, he wants to do everything that I want to do. So I've got a little dowel rod that I put foam fake weights on, and I can kind of get stuff done, but he also still kind of gets in the way because he's 2. But we're in the right mindset of he's doing the same things that I'm doing. So it's kind of cliche, doing the people are just making excuses. But I think if it is part of your lifestyle, then you take the time to make it happen. And, you know, time management's important. Sacrificing other things is important. You know, we've come up with every way under the sun to make it as enjoyable as possible. We're multitasking. Like, our treadmill is in front of the TV for a reason. Most of the time, I have YouTube on. You know, it sucks the Outdoor Boys is taking a break from YouTube because, you know, that was the perfect time to watch his hour-long camping videos and stuff like that. Or watch some of these Minuteman style videos and see, you know, what the new gun that I need to buy is, or this cool new solar thing, or just turn it on a regular old movie. You know, I watched a video where a guy talked about watching the extended Lord of the Rings while walking on a treadmill. And he did it the entire time. I thought it was awesome. Yeah, Bubba? I thought it was awesome that, you know, that Stephen King movie, The Walk, came out. And there was a couple movie theaters that set up treadmills. You also had to walk at 3 miles an hour. And if you quit walking, they kicked you out of your movie. Like, if you didn't maintain it, you know, that's a solid workout. So, you know, I think our military should be lethal. I think we should train for the craziest, hardest stuff imaginable. Because when you have to do the craziest, hardest stuff imaginable, you want to be as ready as possible as you can. I think it works the same way with prepping. You know, my prepping goal is society could collapse tomorrow and I'm going to survive all the way into, you know, creating whatever the next thing is. It's a lot of time, it's a lot of resources, it's sacrifices. So when the little stuff happens, like we lose power for a couple days, we're as close to normal as we can possibly be. When situations affect other people for a longer amount of time, I'm in a position where I can, you know, help my community out because I would like them to do the same thing for me. So, you know, I do think it is kind of funny that, you know, some of the mainstream media is, you know, making the joke of this meeting could have been an email. In some ways, yeah, you know, I kind of believe that. But I also think, you know, we should be, you know, pushing this standard. I know some standards have gotten more relaxed. When I was first doing the PT test, I had, you know, 15 minutes and 54 seconds was the slowest I could do 2 miles. And then, you know, they went from the APFT to the ACFT, and the time went to like 19 minutes and 36 seconds. Granted, I also don't think push-ups, sit-ups, and running is the only thing that you should test. And yes, coming up with a very all-encompassing test is difficult. But, you know, the standards, they did weaken there. We're almost there, Bubba. So, you know, train like protecting your friends and family is the most important thing. Train like, you know, the most difficult challenge is going to be in front of you? For one, everyone should work out. It's going to make your life longer. The science says people that work out live longer lives. It also says you live happier lives. On a certain level, things hurt less. It's better to be physically active. And then, when you've trained to the point where, you can take on the most difficult thing ever, then we can, hope for that not happening and less difficult things happen. So then it's a walk in the park. You can very easily accomplish whatever you're trying to accomplish. Let me know your thoughts down below. Is that too much to ask? What kind of working out are you doing? What's your training plan for being a better prepper or Minuteman or survivalist, or just surviving the crap hitting the fan? Remember, subscribe to the channel, share it with a friend or family member, like it if you like it, dislike it if you don't. And with that, I'll catch you on the next one.